Respiratory and kinematic adjustments upon early exposure to barefoot running, and Will is also from Shippensburg University.
Like you said, my name is Bennett from Shippensburg University, and the study I did was on acute cardiorespiratory and kinematic adjustments upon early exposure to barefoot running. So when comparing running patterns between a shod runner and a barefoot runner, it's pretty evident that there are biomechanical differences. Primary research has shown that the differences occurs in striking patterns, with a shod runner exhibiting more of a rear foot strike, often associated with a thicker sole shoe, leaving more cushioning for impact, compared to a barefoot runner who has a midfoot to forefoot strike. With that in mind, there is a vast amount of research concerning how these biomechanical differences change when exposed to barefoot running, but there's limited research concerning if these adjustments affect physiological factors and if they occur at the initial exposure to barefoot running, or if it takes multiple exposures to notice the difference. So the purpose of this study was to determine whether acute cardiorespiratory and kinematic adjustments do occur at the first exposure to barefoot running, and if they carry over from one training session to the next training session, or if they do not resurface. And we hypothesized that the variable studies where RER, ventilation, heart rate, and VO2 would reflect an improvement in running economy due to acute adaptations. So we had 11 moderately active subjects naive to barefoot running participate in 2 barefoot running trials on separate days. They ran at 5 miles per hour on a treadmill, and a metabolic cart was used to collect VO2, ventilation, and RER at 0 to 3 minutes, and then 9 to 11 minutes. And the reason why we chose these timings was because we wanted to see if adjustments occurred from initial to final within one trial. So, and cinematography was used to evaluate any kinematic adjustments, but although there weren't really any statistically significant data shown from the study, there were considerable changes that occurred within subjects between the trials. So in figure 1, 2, and 3, we have a comparison between subject 1 and subject 8. And the reason why we chose these 2 subjects was because subject 1 was our most economical runner in the study, and subject 2 was our least economical. And subject 1 showed an increase in ankle range of motion from initial to final in trial 1, which continued to increase into trial 2. This led to a decrease in knee range of motion from initial to final in trial 1, which continued to decrease in trial 2, which led to a decrease in VO2. And in contrast, subject 8 had a decrease in ankle range of motion in trial 2, which led to a decrease in, or an increase in knee range of motion in trial 2, which led to an increase in VO2. And figure 4 shows the mean initial and final oxygen consumption for the trials. And this showed a 6.8% improvement in running economy. And figure 5 shows the stride frequency between the mean groups, and there weren't really considerable differences with this. But in a report studied by Atala, he stated that with endurance running speeds, you were more prone to have a rear foot strike. So that's why we had our subjects run at 5 miles per hour, because we wanted to see, we knew it would leave them more prone to rear foot striking, wanted to see if they would make a transition from rear foot striking to forefoot striking. And we found that our most economical runner did have a transition from rear foot strike to forefoot strike, which allowed them to run with more of a propulsion force, letting them become more economical instead of a braking force, which is often associated with rear foot striking. So the findings from this study support that short-term adjustments may occur when exposed to barefoot running, as ankle range of motion increases, knee range of motion decreases, which allows you to transition from a rear foot strike to a forefoot strike. And this is an important factor to consider when determining if running economy may improve from barefoot running. Any questions?
So with regard to the forefoot and rear foot strike, if we just wore running shoes and trained ourselves to strike midfoot or forefoot, would that be just as good in terms of the biomechanics? Not necessarily this. In terms of the biomechanics, do you think that would be could we do that? Is it so? In other words, it's not the shoe itself; it's how we're striking the ground that's problematic.
Yeah, well, I think barefoot running allows you to have a more natural forefoot strike.
Yeah, I agree.
Because like you don't have that cushioning to land on your heel.
Sure, but again, if we had a shoe that was minimal sole and we just trained ourselves to land that way, do you think it would have the same effect? Or?
Yeah, I think if you are able to train yourself to do that, then.
But of course, if you increase your speed, then that becomes difficult.
Right.
Other questions? Was the population of runners that you used, you said were, how would you characterize them? Were they?
They were not used to barefoot running.
Okay, so none of them had run barefoot before. Had any of them run when they were shod with the minimum sole, or were they using a more thicker sole?
More.
Are they recreational runners, or?
Yeah, they're just moderately active individuals.
And at a 5, you said 5 mile per hour?
Right.
Is what you use?
Right.
Which would be about a 12 minutes per mile run. Did anyone complain about that being too slow for them? And I understand that you wanted to have them see if they could land heel strike, so that's why you were slow. But just was curious if some of them were faster runners and they felt uncomfortable running at that speed.
Yeah, they all seem comfortable with it.
You, the shod was always the first trial, and unshod or barefoot was the second trial? Or did you?
It was just barefoot.
Just barefoot?
Yeah.
Okay.
Between the 2 trials.
Did anybody complain of more fatigue or pain on the backside of the leg, calves and kidneys? Since when you're up on your toes, it tends to stress that area a little more.
Well, we didn't really take notice of that.
No one said anything about it.
Okay, go ahead.
Also, getting back to the forefoot, it is really interesting, but I wonder if we've kind of evolved as through the centuries, barefooted, but we never ran as fast as we do now.
Right.
Right? Nobody's running 2:30 marathons. So maybe that's why people getting injuries because they're running faster.
Okay.
It could be related to our size.
Right.
More and more people running, maybe larger than what we used to be, small and squatty.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of factors going into it that kind of interesting stuff. Any comment on that, or?
Like you said it.
Well, when you did your kinematic work, did you in both you did 2 trials?
Right.
One forefoot, one heel strike.
It was just a trial of barefoot running.
Yeah.
And we used cinematography to see if they were rear foot or forefoot.
Okay.
And if they made a transition between the 2.
Did you see any? This is kind of a wild question, but with the heel strike, there's a little bit more braking or deceleration compared to being on your forefoot.
Right.
Were you able to calculate that at all, or did you look at that?
Well, we looked to see, we compared how economy changed between a rear foot and forefoot strike. So, we noticed that, if there was a rear foot strike, they had a lower economy compared to forefoot.
Okay, but you didn't look at any force factors or anything like that. Okay. Other questions? All right, well, thank you very much.